It's okay, it takes time.
Welcome back to Strong, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with you again this week and joined with another amazing guest. Today we are in Dubai and we are interviewing the wonderful Ancy. For those of you joining us for the first time, Strong is a platform that shares the stories of lives of real life people. The aim is to inspire our audience watching and to empower the youth, because I believe that real life people are the superheroes of our youth today. Thank you for joining us, Ancy. It's so great to have you with us today.
Likewise, Maria. My pleasure. Super excited, super kicked to be here having this chat with you.
Ancy, we're just going to jump right in. I want to introduce you properly, but I really want not to give it all away. I would like to ask you to contribute to what comes after how I introduce you.
Sure.
So, Ancy is the advocate for equality in education and performing arts for people with special needs. Ancy describes herself as differently abled due to her partial cerebral palsy.
That is just a descriptor. Partial cerebral palsy is the reason why I walk differently. That's not my identity. And I have partial cerebral palsy the way I have a face. As straightforward as that. So it is to help people who look at me and go, oh, she walks differently. Oh, do you need help? Oh, is everything okay? Yes, thank you very much. Everything is okay. But if I was seated at an interview or a board meeting or a project briefing, and let's say people around me did not get the opportunity to see me walk first, I'm fairly certain that's not the first thing they'd leave the meeting thinking, we interacted with a differently abled individual. They'd be like, it could be, oh, that was a great person, or that was a beast, which I'm okay with. And I think that's just how I've grown up. I've evolved over the years to be this person. I've never thought of my condition being my identity. A lot of people do like to wear it as their identity. I'm okay with it. It's a part of me that is not me.
Ancy, so I want to rewind a little bit. When I sent you the pre-interview questions, you had the option of describing yourself in so many different ways. And you did. There were quite a number of things that you shared with me. But the two things that really stood out for me were that you describe yourself as an advocate for equal education amongst the performing arts for people with special needs. What made you decide to become an advocate? And what does that really mean for you, calling yourself an advocate?
Right. Maria, that's a great question. I'm so glad you're asking me this. I do not think I would have been able to explain this, put it in words till I was about 25 years old myself. Because I've grown up knowing and experiencing everything I could not do physically. But at some point, at some point, precisely when I returned, I resurrected my training in Indian classical dance. So the first time my parents discovered I had a condition, dance was prescribed by the doctor to my parents. They're like, just do not depend on physiotherapy alone. You need to send this child for physical activities. And if she can go into a disciplined training system, movement-wise, so dance would be great for that, swimming would be great for that. That's how my parents really enrolled me for the Indian classical dance training called Bharatanatyam. And I was just lucky, Maria, to be very honest. I was supremely lucky because I didn't even realize till I hit my 20s that I was, or I am, the disciple of a living legend. In India, a lot of people who pursue Bharatanatyam, a lot of them till they do not know that Melatur S. Natarajan, Guru Natarajan, is a living legend. So if you were to pursue a master's degree in dance in India, you would pretty much study about him. He's a chapter in one of your textbooks. We didn't know that, and he never had that air about him. But at a young age, where I was about six and a half, when I started training in dance, the first experience I had in a formal dance training system, he offered an equal platform. So I was never asked to be right at the back of the class. I was never asked to find an alternative. He just gave me the same instruction, same training that was given out to other students in that same dance class. So I grew up not really understanding that I had a real physical limitation. All I knew is that I had to work hard. So I had to show up for class. I had to keep up with my practice. The only thing different for me was I had to be in class maybe 15 to 20 minutes ahead of other students coming in for the class. And that was his time working with me. Today, I've realized that, you know what, when you're financially independent, you shell out a lot of money to get that kind of training and individual attention from a professional. And I just had it, Maria. Like, I was just supremely lucky. I just got it. So I grew up not knowing that there is a possibility of being pushed to the back of the class. But as you grow older, well, I kind of ran away from dance class because I wanted to do martial arts. Don't ask me why. It was just crazy years back then. Again, not recognizing that, because that's not what was given to me. And for my mom and dad, they were like, okay, we know you have a physical condition, but you are able to go to mainstream school, which means academically you can perform. So there was no excuse. I had no excuse to stay at home. I had no tummy aches and headaches and fever situation. I had to just go to school, make sure academics were on point. Mom would not have it any other way. So I really didn't have too many excuses to play around with. When I started hitting my head against the wall, it when teachers at school and other students started pushing me back.
So, Ancy, just because I know that there will be people watching this that aren't really clear, what is cerebral palsy and how do you define yourself as partial cerebral palsy? Like, what does that really mean?
Right. So the reason I say partial is because the condition has affected me waist below, because of which I walk differently. A lot of my issues are leg related. So I have limited balance, less flexibility. Like, I can't squat, for example. I can't run, like, because my feet keep grazing the ground. So I really can't execute a running movement. That's why partial. Cerebral palsy is a broader, wider term these days. It's evolved over the last 35 years. And the full range of the condition can be a various set of limitations, physically, maybe mentally. So it's a whole combination of things that could be going on in your body. Broadly, it is something that happens when the blood supply or the oxygen supply to your brain halts for a few seconds. Maybe when you're about to be born, you're still in your mommy's tummy, or just after birth. So anything that kind of jolts, anything that suddenly stops oxygen supply to the brain usually leads to a set of these issues. Now, in my case, I met all my milestones. So my parents didn't know I had a condition till I started going to school, and then they saw that I was not really walking like my peers. I wasn't able to run or keep up with them. I kept tripping and falling a lot. That's when they recognized, oh, there seems to be something that's different. So that's what led them to then take me for a medical consultation, and that's how they found out that I have a condition.
And what was that like for you to be in mainstream school with the other children?
Well, academically, I don't think there was an issue, because my mom was this tiger mom who did not give me a break until I got out of high school. But I definitely say it was a combination of things. Of course, you have kids who are growing up, they don't really know what to do with, a classmate who's different, who's not able to run along with them, or who looks a bit awkward in layman terms, or maybe for kids, it's just funny. But it took me a while to recognize that there was this issue, because at home I just had go, 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 study, physio, dance practice, dance class. I was like, okay, you have to work hard. So this little difference that I experienced in school, it started settling, I think, as I was getting closer to my adolescence. That's where it's really started sitting in my system. I was like, hang on a second, I'm definitely, I have a lot more accidents than other students at school. Like I keep tripping and falling all the time. I'm not able to run. I love playing basketball, but it was easy. Like, and I guess it's very sensitive when at that age you kind of hear, unfortunately or fortunately, overhear your classmates kind of talking about, oh, it's easy to trip her. Let's just get her out of the game. It's super easy. And how you can kind of see them kind of coming in to trip you. And, that incident so clear in my head. But they're kids. They don't know otherwise.
So I heard you saying that you went to school and it was only then that your parents started to identify that there was something different. So they took you in to get checked. Did they tell you? Because now I'm hearing you say that you started to notice that there was something different about you. Did anyone ever tell you along the way? Or did you identify for yourself?
I knew something was different because my parents had a very emotional day. The day the doctors told them, confirmed that it's partial cerebral palsy, and it's not something that can be cured fully. So I have a very clear image of my parents breaking down that day.
How old were you, Ancy?
About between 5 and 6. Between 5 and 6 for sure. I had no idea why they were crumbling like that.
So how old were you? Sorry, how old were you when you knew for sure I'm different?
About 10.
And
Till
then
then,
from 10 until being a teenager, can you remember what it was like having teenage friends? Can you remember what it was like to be going through those hormonal changes, knowing that there were these differences about you?
100%. A lot of shame, Maria. A lot of shame. Clearly, I wasn't as physically active as other kids that age, my age. I wasn't running so much, or I wouldn't be playing. I would be playing with kids in the neighborhood. For some reason, they treated me very differently than kids at school. That was, again, very interesting. I think just seeing me from a very young age, we were just in the same neighborhood for a very long time. All the kids there, that we play in the evening, like you had playtime from 4 to 6 p.m. I was like, I never had to, like, they'd come up with different ways so that I could be a part of the different games that we played. So that was very interesting to notice how kids can have that different emotional maturity as well. And pretty much same age group, there was a difference. But at school, there was definitely, you'd have your physical exercise hours where I wouldn't run or I wouldn't be a part of any of the activities going on. Like, I try, and I remember till I was about 10 years old, I was so far removed from the idea of being physically different. I try and go and participate, or rather audition, to be part of the march past group, or in different sports activities. And I just know, it wouldn't register in my head that you really can't do it. Or there is a reason why people think you're not fit for this. For me, it was just about go, 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 try, give it your best. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, well, better luck next time. But this started sinking in post 10. Like the 10 to 13 was really complicated. That's when you kind of start developing these ideas about yourself. And I now know that I was withdrawing into a shell. I was becoming this, I'd rather study and I'd rather just read books. I still am an active daydreamer, but back then it was all just daydreaming and, playing dress up was in my head. I physically would not play dress up. It was all in my head. I have a best friend from school who's still with me. I have no idea how she stuck around for so long, for 30 odd years. And she's one of those people who's just been around, like a constant. like truly a sister that I've grown up with. Like you said earlier on, having a friendship like that, so important. Outside of her, I've really not had friends at school who've really kind of pushed me to do things or come along and be part of it. And this was not just students. I'm talking about teachers as well. You start seeing teachers kind of, pushing you back, asking you to, all right, just, you can sit down, don't bother, because they don't want to take the risk. They don't want to take the risk of a differently abled child running around, getting hurt. Like, they don't want that risk. Dance teachers at school, that's one experience I'm never going to forget, where, you had to be in your element. And I love dancing. And I remember going up to my dance teacher and asking if I can really come back, kind of do extra sessions and just observe, because I so wanted to be a part of the dance troupe. And there was something along the lines of, oh, don't bother. Like, why do you want to waste your time? Or just, go away, silly girl. Just one of those. But I remember that. I remember turning up for auditions where they just make it look like auditions are done and I've turned up late and sorry, all selections are done. And I'd walk away. And these are all very clear memories in my head. I'm not blaming anyone today. I'm just saying, you just want to stick to what's familiar to you and kind of try. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really interesting that you took us on that little journey of being this young person who felt like anything was possible until something started to change as you got closer to being a teenager, and you started to notice how the outside world was giving you feedback and almost then deciding that you would retreat. For anybody watching this that might have a young person at home, a child, or maybe even an adult feeling the same kind of pressure of hiding because they feel different, and not just a physical difference. Sometimes I think even feeling different culturally or feeling different emotionally, academically. I mean, young people today, there's so many things that they use to decide that they're different to what they believe they should be.
Right.
What would your tip be, that the thing that you felt kept you going and kept you resilient?
I think I was just rebellious, Maria, to be honest, growing up. It helped to have a mother who would not take any slack from me. So I had to, it was good to, I think today I can look back and say it was good to have somebody say, hey, you need to, if you're good at something, you do it and you do a good job. Whatever it is, it can be the smallest thing. For my mother, I guess it was very personal for her, and coming from, a South Indian upbringing herself, she was just devastated. She had no idea what to do with a differently abled daughter, because in India, most parts of India, maybe even today, they'd look at you like, oh, this is burden. They wouldn't expect a differently abled girl to live life to the fullest, to have all opportunities, to ask for what she wants, or to be decided about, oh, I'd like this and I'd not like that, thank you very much. So for her to even come to terms with raising a differently abled daughter was just, I'm guessing it was just horrifying for her. So she was like, hang on a second, this is what you can do. You can study, you're not affected, you're not a slow learner. We've got doctors saying that to us. That's what you got to do. Go, go, go. So that was a good pressure. Maybe she did it how she knew best. But I guess if someone around us can help us identify that one thing that we're good at, because that gives us something to focus on and to take our focus away from so many other things that are not going right. And I'm not saying that it doesn't, it's easy or it doesn't bother you, because I've grown up with this, like just not feeling like, I never felt that I was attractive. Yeah, and growing up, in your teenage years, you want to be the attractive girl. And you kind of see all these girls who kind of growing up beautifully. and they already seem to know how to apply lipstick, and you're like, what do I do with this? Like, with hyperpigmentation, and you're like, and culturally as well, a lot of people like, ooh, you're not the cool one, you're not the cool type, but what's
So
cool?
going back to your mom, do you feel that without her, that your life today might be different? Is it her drive? Was it her, we're not going to accept defeat that rubbed off on you? Or was it just that you didn't want to disappoint her and you wanted to keep going?
I didn't have an option to think that much when I was growing up. She had decided she's going to ensure that I came out with some kind of a fancy degree. My father, I'm really close to my dad. He is the center of my universe. There's just so much love and so much patience that was just available, and I'm lucky. Not everybody might have the same things to talk about. I hope everybody has a home like that. But my father definitely gave me a very safe space. So mom was go, 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 and dad was, just the picnic in the park, like all the time. He was that cool breeze. So that helped. I knew it bothered them. I grew up very aware that it was bothering the both of them that I'm differently abled, because they didn't know. And for them, it was very straightforward. How do we get this girl married away?
So I think it's important to kind of hone in on what you just said about it bothered them, because I know as a parent, and I know working with the youth, and I remember being a teenage girl, and I remember thinking my mother was the person that I never really ever wanted to disappoint. And
Yeah.
when you say that it bothered them, because I know that young people are always so worried that their parents won't approve of them, that they're not good enough, that they're not strong enough, or that they're not capable enough. What do you mean by you knew that it bothered them? Because I don't want anyone to misunderstand what you're referring to.
Absolutely. When I say it bothered them that they did not know what the future held for a differently abled South Indian girl.
So would you say that it was worrisome to them that this beautiful daughter that they had, and I know as a parent that that's our biggest challenge, is that we have children and we see so much potential in them, but the biggest concern always is, will they be okay? And do you feel that your mom's driving factor was her way of trying to ensure that no matter what, her daughter would be okay, and that your dad was more kind of safe and loving only because there was already that tag team going on? There was already somebody that was pushing you forward, so he knew that you needed to come closer.
Absolutely.
And I say that as well, Ancy, because I think a lot of teenage girls sometimes have that struggle with their mothers, that they feel that they're more daddy's girls. And I think what I'm seeing more and more of in the work that I do, the interviews that I have, and also being a mom to two teenage daughters that I've had experience with, as a woman, as a mother, sometimes it's really hard to make them understand that you're not hard on them because you don't love them as much as their father. You're hard on them because the world is a challenging place, and you want to make sure that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that you mentioned was self-doubt was your greatest challenge. And I read this going, how's that even possible? Look at her. Look at what she's accomplished. Look at who she is. What does self-doubt really mean for you, and how has it played devil's advocate in your life this far?
Sure. I think self-doubt in a big way, Maria, is just not knowing what you're capable of. Like you just don't know. Like, let's say, small example, like for my mom, like you said, the only way she knew how to handle the situation was to just get firm, buckle the seatbelt, just go, 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 go. Dad played tag team with her, just ensured that was going on. But at the same time, this is something very important, and I hope someone is benefited from what I'm about to share right now. Growing up with so many insecurities, I did not have a talking relationship with my mother. I just had to, it was like, here are the instructions to be followed, done. Now, as a girl, you want to be able to talk to somebody about your insecurities. Or even as a boy growing up, adolescent years, I feel it's very critical. You have all these ideas that float into your head that are not real. And where are you getting these ideas from? And in a time when social media was unheard of, you just had MTV and just, music videos and just some TV. It was already registering in my head that I'm not good looking enough. And that was a bigger problem than anything else. And I had no one to go and voice this to. I do not have to be good looking. I don't have to walk like another individual. I don't have to be anything. I don't have to be the clone of the most beautiful, like a Miss Universe, to prove anything in this world. What's important is for me to understand what drives me. If you're lucky, you probably have the kind of upbringing, or maybe there's a teacher or a friend who helps you discover that. If not, way too many years are spent just wondering, how do I look like somebody else? How do I become like somebody else? But when do you become like yourself? When do you become you?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. So you described yourself as somebody with self-doubt. I see you as somebody very courageous, very honest, very genuine. You're creative in the form of using dance as something that you're passionate about and a gift that you're giving to those with special needs as well, because you believe in that equal education. You're a career-driven woman, working in the family business and doing dance as well. And your life has really become not just your life, but you're sharing it with everybody. You're sharing your challenges, and you're sharing your resilience, and you're sharing your hope for anything is possible if you really, really want it. You're very enthusiastic, and you're an explorer, which is what you described yourself as. Underneath all of that, Ancy, when nobody's watching, who else are you?
A daydreamer, just a constant dreamer. I have been, I continue to be. I'm always thinking of ways to really go out there with dance and with storytelling and with drama. Um, I just like thinking about what can I do. I like writing and dancing are my go-to things. That's what I like doing. The process of creating, the process of telling stories is something I enjoy. So that's what I do. That's what I am. Outside of that, I'm a hardcore Gemini. For people who don't believe in zodiac signs and all the nitty-gritties that come with it, maybe this is not a big deal. But I'm like 15 different people, like any given day. So I'm like, oh, hey, here's oh, wow, yes, great. Like, life the party. Where's the next party happening from there to, or just give me 2 books. I want to just stay here and not move. Like it can just go between, travel in that range. That's just what it is. But now, Maria, also, life has somehow handheld me to this place where I know that I have to do more, and I cannot be in a shell and just not think about myself. Growing up with all that self-doubt and a disability and just not being sure of myself, I think for the longest time, maybe between 16 to 23, 24, the only thing I could think about, maybe also the result of culturally what you're expected to do, was just falling in love, getting married, and getting away from my family. That was my objective. And today, when I look back, I'm like, wow, that for some people, that might be their ultimate objective and they're happy with it. But had I subscribed to that, I know for a fact I wouldn't have been happy with that. Because going back to something I shared earlier, many times what we do is we take inspiration from what's going on in another person's life. Someone else is living, and we don't even know what the real deal is. And today's social media makes it so much more difficult, because you're looking at those wonderful Instagram posts and you're looking at, things that are just too good to be true. But honest to God, if it's too good to be true, then that is the case. It is too good to be true.
You talked about subscribing to that idea of falling in love and getting married. You talked about the self-doubt that you had about not feeling beautiful enough. Here you are today. I mean, you make your life just look super easy. You make it look seamless, being so resilient, so strong, so beautiful, so confident. Are you in a relationship? Are you part of something that you thought you would not subscribe to, as you called that traditional relationship to be? Is that any part of who you are today?
Not at all. So it's taken a long while, many years. I think I had to cross 25 to be able to put my foot down. Not even put my foot down, to just be aware that no one can use my physical limitation as a reason or window of opportunity to exit a relationship with me. That's just, I'm like, it was just something that dawned upon me. And till that point, that was the biggest trump card anybody had. You could turn around and say something and I'd be so vulnerable. I'd be like, oh my God, that's the end of the relationship. And, it was my responsibility to make relationships work. No, it's a two-way responsibility. As you know yourself, you do not take all the responsibility of making a relationship work. You try, you give it your best, you stay committed, but that's not your full-time job. And my full-time job is not to beg and plead with somebody to make them stay in a relationship with me or make them like me. If you like me, you like me. If I like you, I like you. If that does not happen, you don't want, it's like saying I'm going to romance a tumor in my life and that tumor is killing me. Or here's a cactus, looks great, I want to hug it, but it's causing me so much discomfort. I refuse to let go. Why would I do that?
Do you feel that you've gotten to, so you mentioned 25, do you feel that by that time you had decided, I am enough, and my physical challenge is not going to make me less worthy of love? I deserve what I deserve.
Absolutely. And it was truly the decision to resurrect dance training in my life, Maria. That's truly what changed the game for me. I had taken a massive sabbatical from proper dance training. I used to choreograph and dance and just be happy and just go to a 9-to-5 job. And it was about just keeping that job. It was about keeping the boyfriend. It was about, just being that girl and and there was such a big part of me that was missing. Like, this is the Ancy that everybody truly knows. But there was this that was just buried because I was just carrying the world on my shoulders because, hey, I'm differently abled. In my head, I'm not good looking enough. And I've got parents who are really they're growing older and they're so super worried about finding a son-in-law. And all of this was my problem. I was like, hang on a second. And it was post a breakup. I happened to go to an event where I saw my second guru in dance, Guru Paulie G. I saw her perform. And I was like, I think I want to attempt learning Kathak. And coming from a Bharatanatyam background, they're two different styles, very different styles. I was like, hang on a second. But I did not have the courage to turn up for a trial class because this dance form requires you to spin on your heel, using your heel. And I just knew that that's not something I can do. So I just did not. And for 3 months, I sat thinking, oh, should I not? But I just, out of the blues, I was like, I turned up for that class. I showed up. And at the end of the class, we all kind of go and do a little namaste to our guru. I kind of looked at Paulie G and I was like, so do you think I can come back for the next class? She looked at me and she just looked at me dead in the eye and she goes, why not? And I struggled for 2 seconds. I was like, I had no answer to give her. I said, because here is a teacher. I'm expecting her to say, oh yeah, let me see. I'll probably think of personal sessions for you. No. No excuses. She was like, yeah, why can you not come back for class? And that happened. And Maria, I was just, it was like falling in love. Trust me. Going back to dance was just, it just had to happen. And if I came up with an excuse, and I had a major breakup after that, after I started my training, and Paulie G was one of those rare teachers where she'd know something was off with her student. And she'd be like, don't dance if you're not feeling like it. Just come observe. And I'd wear these pencil skirts and clothes in which I would not be able to move in just to avoid dancing. But the days that I chose to do that, she'd make sure that I sat through all her classes. And it was just there. And from there, dance gave me the awareness about my body. And it was a different type of training because now I was in my 20s. It was not like when I was 6 or 7 where it was just like going to school. I started seeing a lot more clearly what it is that I received at a young age. My health became important to me. I was able to communicate better about what's going on in my body as a result of being in a dance class. I'm like, oh, she's the one who introduced the idea of taking care of my health. She's like, as a dancer and a dancer with a condition, you have no excuse to not take care of your health. You need to do these things, and just grooming, just be it for performance or outside. So these are things that just happened as a part of that one decision that I made, which is to turn up for a dance class.
Amazing.
And from there, there's no looking back.
And the impact that Paulie G
Yeah.
had on you was overwhelming. That's amazing. Did you ever go back and tell her that she had a pinnacle part in that change for you?
She knows. In fact, this is something that I make sure every conversation, both my gurus, Natarajan sir and Paulie G, they know how instrumental they've been. Like, I cannot thank Natarajan sir enough for not making me feel little or disabled or lacking in any way at such a young age, because had he done that, I would have never liked dance. I would have just avoided it like the plague. I've always thought about finding ways to dance. And it's only my mind telling me nonsense that makes me stop dancing. It's all in the head. It's really stuff that you're telling yourself. Of course, there are issues. I'm not saying that there are no problems. It's not a bed of roses. Even after I started training in Kathak, I've had instructors who've been like, oh, do we really need to teach her? Or can we really train her for this performance? Do you think she can do it? So, because it's something a friend of mine who somebody I met in the US last year, so beautifully said this. The idea of aesthetics is fed to us. So we view things in a particular way, not because that's the right way to do it. It's just someone somewhere has told us this is the right thing. So in dance, when you watch differently abled bodies moving around, you don't know how to see aesthetics in it because you're expecting extremely agile, able bodies flying around and doing cartwheels and, doing their points and just kind of like being graceful and beautiful. But who's to tell? I mean, whoever told us that's all that beauty is? Who said that a particular shade is better than another shade? Who said a particular hair length or hair color is better than another one? How do we know that? I mean, we come in all shapes and sizes. It's about being able to embrace the idea of that diversity. And we are a beautiful part of this massive fabric.
Ancy, listening to you is just incredible. I know why I really wanted to have you on the show. I think that you're drive and your confidence and your authenticity are just those things that I want more youth to be exposed to. And I'm so thrilled that you agreed to come. But why did you say yes? Why are you here? Why are you sharing with us these really intricate parts of your life?
Maria, like you said, I thought you reaching out to me, there's something very genuine that I felt there as well. That connection felt very genuine. Your intention came across as very genuine to me. And I appreciate that, because what I'm trying to tell people through my work, there are days when I don't feel like getting up and going to a dance class or working on myself. What I'm trying to do by showing up and being present is just expand opportunities for people who you think might not be the right fit. Just accommodate. And there's so much that can happen as a result of that. And I've grown up, Maria, feeling a lot of things that were not great. I know how I have struggled with, like, there was a phase in my life where I wouldn't look into the mirror. I just wouldn't, because I did not like the person that I saw in the mirror. I don't think I appreciate or enjoy anything. This is going to sound a bit awkward, but I truly like looking in the mirror these days. Like, for the last 5 years or so, I'm happy looking into the mirror. And it's okay if I've gained a few kilos or I've shed a few kilos. It's all part of the process. And that's okay. But this has not come easy, Maria. And getting here is not easy. I know a lot of people complain about having a difficult parent. In my case, it was my mother. I had no relationship with her, no talking relationship with her. I know how it was difficult, because that meant I had to become an absolute rebel, which was not pleasant for my parents, which was not pleasant for me. And can you imagine, for them, just the idea of having a differently abled child who was rebellious was just like double trouble. They were like, oh my God, we are doomed. This is a curse. What do we do? But now they're okay. We've kind of find ways to work with each other, and it is okay. Like, it's not just me saying, this tendency to keep hiding, to stay under the table, just not show up, because, it's about another person liking you. I mean, how long can you live like that?
But why are you telling the public? Why are you telling people that you'll never meet? Why are you sharing your story?
Because it's important to like yourself. What I'm seeing around me are people trying to impose their idea of right and wrong, especially on differently abled folks. A lot of people who are trying to, live their lives for likes on social media. And that's sad. That's saddening for me. And if it's difficult for able-bodied youth folks out there, I can imagine how much more difficult it is for differently abled people out there. And I hope that parents are able to navigate through, especially those crucial years, for kids with a different ability, to find something that they're good at. You want to encourage them to do something, to pursue something that they're good at. And it does not have to be something that has to be done under the wraps, hiding constantly. Own what you do well. Just own it. And it's okay. It is okay to not look like something that you see on TV. Like, trust me, there's a lot of lighting work and airbrushing going on, behind those posts and behind those glamorous things that you consume digitally. Like, if we can be true to ourselves, there is the possibility for us being in better place. Because a lot of people, Maria, are struggling with depression, so real for so many people. It's unfortunate that the triggers are some things that we could do without.
Thank you, Ancy. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here and sharing your story. It's just so incredible to be on this side of the camera listening to you. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. This brings us to the end of another incredible interview with another phenomenal guest on Strong. I hope to see you again next week when we bring another amazing guest to talk about their story and share it with you. Thank you for watching.
It's so